was old Bob. He toiled throughout the day, you could be sure he'd do the job. But Bob was not a cattle horse, no saddle was his thing. And if you planned to ride him, just yourself was what you'd bring. Sitting in the movies, once I had this bright idea. Old Bob could be my cowboy horse, but might be hard to steer. At Walker's store I stopped and bought a nifty pair of spurs. And never would you guess the kind of trouble these would stir. Now old Bob was just a plow horse, so he didn't understand the measure of the terror that for him was close at hand. He'd never had a reason, never had too much to fear. Didn't realize how quickly he could hit a higher gear. I bridled up poor Bob and led him over to a tree. That horse was so darn big, his back was just as high as me. But undeterred, I climbed right up and plopped down on his back. As one spur caught his flank, my face was quickly taken flat. Unfamiliar with the concept of those things that stung his sides, Bob bolted, spooked, and panicked, gaining speed with every stride. Across the yard, then on the road, and down by Kegel's store. Old Eb and Mrs. Clutie hadn't seen that sight before. "Whoa, big fella!" I would shout, but Bob just galloped fast. He paid not much attention to the cars that we would pass. I'd yank the reins and scream out, "Stop!" but words were all in vain. Now I'm panicked, trapped on top of this big black steaming train. Now Bob was just a plow horse, so he didn't understand the measure of the terror that for him was now at hand. He'd never had a reason, never had too much to fear. Didn't realize how quickly he'd shift to a higher gear. Try as I might, I couldn't get the darn things off my feet. And every time old Bob would bounce, those spurs kept digging deep. My pounding heart, adrenaline rush, so much of that had flowed. And here we went, old Bob and me, still screaming down the road. Long minutes passed and Bob grew tired, so home was where he'd go. And I was mighty happy to conclude this rodeo. I'm sure that Bob was happy too, this episode would end. But as he bounced, the spurs dug in. Oh no, we're off again! Back up the road, poor Bob retraced his every labored step. But slower now, he'd lost his fire and used up all his pep. A managed pace, the spurs controlled, we're at an easy gait. Then underneath the tree low limbs, I thought I'd met my fate. Bob wobbled through the barnyard gate and headed for his stall. And how we both got through that door, me on his back and all. But through we went, we both were spent, and me, my life was saved. Old Bob had made a run for life, my road to death well paved. Old Bob was just a plow horse, so he didn't understand the measure of the terror he would suffer for my hand. He'd never had a reason, never had too much to fear. Didn't realize how quickly he could hit a higher gear. Oh yes, Bob was just a plow horse, and he didn't understand the measure of the terror he would suffer for my plan. He'd never had a reason, never had too much to fear. Didn't realize how quickly he could hit a higher